Well, hey everybody, it's Sandy and welcome back to my channel dedicated to helping you advocate for your own health one topic at a time. So guys, today I want to talk about something that happened, part of a discussion in a Facebook group this past weekend. It started. I think it's still going on. So let me just give the plug to Sandy's DIY Health Advocacy Facebook group. Sandy's DIY Health Advocacy does have a Facebook page, and you can head on over to Facebook and then you can ask to join the group, and it's just more of an interactive discussion. So yeah, head on over there and see how you like it. It's a nice group. I also want to take a moment to just thank everybody. I don't think I've thanked my subscribers in a little while. I'm sorry. But I'm coming up on close to 5,000. I know in like social media terms, it's like people talking like millions and things, but it's not about the numbers to me. I started this channel sort of as my way of giving back, if you will. And I don't load my channel up with affiliate links and things like that. I don't want to bias my opinions, and I don't want to prey on people's fears or anything like that. I'd rather be trusted, but um, my way forward is to grow the channel. So I do thank those of you who have subscribed, both, from the beginning and more recently. Thank you and welcome. And if you haven't subscribed to my channel yet, but you do like the content, I really hope that you'll consider subscribing, and I'll thank you in advance for the consideration as well. Yeah, so there was a conversation that started in the Facebook group, actually with an article that I posted, and then somebody in the comment section just put, I think it was just a screenshot of a tweet of somebody who's on Twitter and Instagram and all kinds of social media, and I'm not in those places, but I came down pretty hard on this tweet, and I do want to explain why. And I'll talk about that in a second. But I guess the moral of the story is please don't throw, tweets up on my pages. I feel like I just work really hard to get down to the nitty gritty of what's true. And sometimes that means a more slow going process, and wait to read the data and see an overwhelming preponderance of data as it evolves and tell you just what I'm doing and not telling anybody else what to do. And I also really want an honest discussion on Facebook, and I have been approached many times to take something down from the Facebook group, and rarely have I done it. Almost never. I think one time I've taken something down just because it was so offensive. But I don't take things down when I think people are wrong or when the whole group knows something is wrong, because I just think that censorship is worse than having bad information that can be argued. And if you have better information, it will speak for itself once you put it out there. And what's right and what's true will out, and that's the way we come to our conclusions in a civil society. So I want my channel to be a microcosm of that, but nice. So anyway, I posted an article that it was a study done at Oregon Health Science University about the immunity and what kind of immunity is longer lasting. And no surprise, it's hybrid immunity. But more importantly, it was hybrid immunity where the length of time between exposures was longer and longer. So if you have longer times between boosts of the vaccine, or there's a long time between your last boost and when you actually contract COVID, you have a better training of your immune system. And I wasn't surprised to hear any of this. And I thought it was interesting. I thought it was good. And I thought that it just really drove the point home about how my approach to the CDC's recommendation when the bivalent booster came out, my approach was to just, almost pay no attention to it. Other than that, I know that's out there now. I'm glad that's out there. Next time it's time for me to boost, that's what I'll be getting. And now that's of course what I'll be getting, because there's nothing else out there anymore. But I didn't think that the recommendation that every single person who's eligible get it no matter what. What if you had COVID like, just a few weeks ago? What if you had your last boost just, and then quickly got COVID, and now you have this hybrid immunity? The antibody boost that you get from these vaccines does wane pretty quickly. Now, there was a recent study out showing that the waning of immunity, protection against infection, actually isn't as slow as with some of the previous boosts. Seems like it's still pretty much intact, a little past 3 months, depending on who you read, but still, that's not a year, and it's not close to 6 months either. So I know people who got very, very sick about 5 months after the bivalent boost. So it doesn't last that long, and I think it just calls for a more nuanced approach to how you're going to get this, when you're going to get this, and you have to be strategic about it. And I talked about that in another video, so suffice it to say that's my opinion. I haven't gotten boosted yet because I'm not really in particularly risky situations right now, and I'm going to be traveling in a couple of months, and I want better protection around that time. And you know, anyway, I had a lot of good comments about it, and some people said they were waiting, some people said they'd gotten it, and then somebody threw this screenshot of a tweet up there by an epidemiologist who's out on Twitter, and his name is Eric Ding, and I wouldn't even say his name because I don't really want to promote people like this. I don't like people who take their credentials. I feel like I use my credentials as a bolstering of my ability to speak on various health topics. But I don't like when people take these credentials and they use that as their platform and to bolster their population their popularity. And then they go ahead and turn it around for clickbait and fame and more followers and all the low-hanging fruit. I just really have a problem with that. And I came down very hard on this one. So yeah, don't put any more tweets of anybody else's social media really on my Facebook page, unless it's something slow and methodical, and that kind of stuff just doesn't make for sexy tweets. So here was the problem with it. It was basically a screenshot of something that he showed. He must have showed it as a screenshot himself on Twitter. And it said something like, do you want to get an autoimmune disease? I don't. And it showed all the different, like several different autoimmune diseases in a column and the percent increased risk of getting one of those autoimmune disease if you got COVID. So in other words, after you've had COVID, the assumption was that you had a 40-something% increase of a new onset autoimmune disease. Okay, well, first of all, let's just back up a minute, because I decided that, first of all, it sounded like a lot. Okay, that wouldn't have sounded like a stretch to me 2 years ago, but it sounded like a stretch now. That's just kind of not what I'm hearing right now. I'm not seeing anybody studying it, but that is not the way it looks like with so much immunity in our population at this point. That's just not what we're seeing. So I clicked on the link. Actually, I will give him credit that he put a link there. So when I found his statement, I clicked on the link and I looked at the study itself. And there were so many things wrong with using that study from back in 2020, now in 2023, and making a statement like this. I didn't know if it was a political hack type thing. I don't know if it was like maybe he's trying to talk to people who are not vaccinated at all. Like there are still higher risks for people who have no vaccination at all, as opposed to people who are vaccinated and have had COVID as a hybrid type of immunity. But that's kind of a lost cause anyway. Anybody who's decided not to be vaccinated up to this point, you're really not going to get anywhere, and you're certainly not going to win any of those people over with all kinds of fear mongering and extreme statements, and especially if any of them will go look and see what this study was, because I'm going to tell you the indictment I have about it now. It wasn't a bad study, and it did show, after following many subjects, this study was conducted in Germany, that there was a higher incidence of new onset autoimmune disease within 6 months of having had COVID in the group that got COVID versus the group that didn't. So what's the problem, Sandy? Well, the problem is they stopped enrolling in December of 2020. And, it's I think, like, from a scientific standpoint, it's just almost unethical to pin that up there today and show it to everybody as though like this is the current landscape. I don't know about you guys, but December of 2020, like nobody around me was vaccinated. I was one of the first people vaccinated in this country because of the work that I do. And I was vaccinated. My first shot was the first business calendar day of the year of 2021. So it was January 3rd, 2021. That was my first Moderna injection. So to take something with, I know it's only 3 years ago, in research terms, that's not a really long time ago, but the landscape was entirely different. We had a very immune naive population worldwide. And to put that up there was like, what is the purpose of that? So I just can't help but think it's fear mongering, it's political hacking, there's just so many problems with it. It wasn't a peer-reviewed study, and somebody had indicted me for putting something up a few days earlier that wasn't a peer-reviewed study. And interestingly, it was the same person who put up this tweet. And I called this person out on that as well. I don't have a problem with something that isn't peer-reviewed yet, as long as that's disclosed. And it does give you the ability to poke more holes at it. It doesn't mean it's it's not right. It doesn't mean it's not going to go through peer review successfully. It's something to watch, but I think all information is good information. So anyway, I kind of got on my rant all over again, but I wanted to explain myself. And I guess I feel like I've just worked so hard to maintain the discipline, to not give in to the temptation to have a lot of clickbait on my channel or in my Facebook group, and just be true to my own sensibilities and true to what I think is scientific integrity, if you will. And I I just don't want to tarnish it by not having said something about this, because if you go over to the Facebook group, I would just prefer that we didn't put all kinds of like fantastic kinds of tweets and things from other people's social media, because those are almost undoubtedly clickbait and bait for just lots and lots of numbers. And it's just very countercurrent to the purpose and the goals of my channel. Yeah, so let me know if you were over there or if you had any thoughts about it. I kind of put it to bed. I didn't get a whole lot of comments after I made my points. But anyway, I do think the moral of the story is to, if you want to really know how to guide your own decisions in terms of with scientific information and input, don't use the tweets, people. A tweet should always have a link or a reference to an author or something. Go to the study and see if it really applies, because it's just too easy to take an excerpt out of something and then use that as its own headline, and it can be very misleading. And I truly believe that this was misleading at best. So yeah, anyway, that's my 2 cents about it. I, again, want to thank you guys for those of you who have subscribed, liked. Please share my content if you think it's helpful. Please head on over to Facebook and ask to join the group if you'd like to be involved in the more interactive type discussion. And yeah, until next time, be well.